Welcome, David. Thank you so much for coming on board today. It's great to have you here. We've spoken before and it was so much fun. So, looking forward to another great session today.
Thanks very much, Craig. I'm looking forward to it as well. Excellent.
Your experience is just so extensive. People, I'll put the LinkedIn contact down below and people can just look you up and look at everything that you've done in the past. But the thing that I really wanted to cover straight off the bat on mergers and acquisitions is why do they fail? What what goes wrong here? Why do mergers and acquisitions fail? And from your
Yeah,
perspective and your
that's a
experience.
really look, that's a super important question because the sad reality is that most of them do. They don't fail straight away. They fail over a period of normally around 3 years. They suddenly wake up and realize, hey, we've lost the value of the acquisition. And there are
Yes.
a number of reasons for that. Um, and some of them are that it was the wrong fit in the first place. Some of them are that they can't really capture the IP that they've bought because people are leaving. That's a big issue.
And
Valuable
the
people
leaving
leave.
costs so much money, doesn't it?
Well, even if you don't do a merger and acquisition, even if you've got a company that's, sort of well established and grounded and not looking to do anything other than business as usual, maybe grow the market, if you lose your talent, the cost is massive.
Hmm.
And so with mergers and acquisitions, which I really like to reframe and call that acquisitions and mergers because that's how it
Yep.
happens. We I don't know why we've got it asked about, but and maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe that is part of the problem. They don't they the owners of both the buyer and the seller spend a lot of time making the deal done, getting the deal done, worrying, agonizing over term sheets and the funding and how do we lock in the owner to make sure that we don't stumble and fall and all of those things. And of course the
Because
owner
that's their
wants to go.
KPIs, isn't it? That's what they're being measured on. They're
Yeah.
measured on getting the deal done.
Yeah. And it's crazy because they then hand it over to the dreadful merger integration team, which is comprised wisely. If it's done wisely, they'll have a mixture of both the buyer and the seller's people there. But most of the time, it's mainly the buyer's people. And if the seller's people are a part of the integration team, they are the subservient part of the integration team. And so now you've got middle managers and even senior leaders saying, well, we don't need two CFOs, we don't need two chief marketing officers, we don't need two CTOs. And so one of them is going to go. Guess which one's more likely to go?
Absolutely. You get rid of
And
get rid of the one you're bringing
yeah,
on.
and so we have that problem. And regardless of how kind and how gentle and how considerate the incoming party is, those fears are natural fears, and and we can prepare for it. We can
How do you
prepare for it.
prepare for it? Because you can't keep them all on.
No, you can't. But no, you definitely can't. But here's one of the facts that people need to realize. When you interview people who've been made redundant for whatever reason, regardless of whether it's a merger or an acquisition, and maybe the redundancy was because the people didn't like that person, so they found a way of making the situation redundant and booted that person out. I haven't found anyone that I've interviewed over a long period of time who didn't actually ultimately end up in a better spot.
Oh, okay. So it's not all bad.
No, and we need to face that. But unfortunately, the we go in there with trepidation. We go in there saying, "Look, guys, we're going to be selling the business, and very clearly there won't be a need for two levels of the same rank or the same position. So what we're going to do if we're going to help you, we don't know whether it's you or the other party that's going to go, but one of you is going to go. That's the reality. Now, what we want to do is to do it the right way. We want to prepare you for whether you stay or whether you go, so that you can be the best version of yourself for yourself and for whoever ends up with you.
I had a recent case of that exact same thing myself. I was working on a aged care facility, and the operations manager who helped integrate, she was on the seller's side. She helped integrate by keeping the face and working hard. Then 4 months in, she was tapped on the shoulder and said,
Yep.
"You got to go. We got all this covered now down in head office. We don't need you any longer." I spoke with her the day she left, and she was pretty upset because she'd spent her heart building this organization up.
Yeah.
And she said, "I don't want to think about it." She said, "I'm going to go and take some time off." And she took 3 months off. I caught up with her probably about 6 months after she left. She now is the CEO of a chain of aged care facilities of her own.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying there, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So what we need to do is we've got to prepare people effectively. And so the moment we know that there's going to be a buy or a sale taking place regarding which would, whether which side you're on, the leadership needs to prepare the people for that reality. And
Mm.
then that's not a hard thing to do. That's so not hard to do. And I mean, I'll give you a good example. And this was actually in a local government. So it doesn't matter whether, I mean, local governments run like a business, even though there's a different standard.
Yes.
But the human side of it's pretty much the same. And over here in WA, we had a government that was going to merge a number of these local governments because there were too many of them, and there still are too many of them. And so this particular local government got on the front foot because their CEO happened to be an ex-HR person, so they had an understanding of the dynamics and the dilemmas when we do a merge. And that particular local government was identified to merge with another one, a larger one.
Yep.
And of course, the larger one's normally the dominant one. And so she asked me to prepare her people for whether they stay or whether they go, not knowing who that is and when that is. And they all, and of course, the whole of the local government scene in WA at that time got nervous because it was public information,
Mm.
and everyone was scared. And these people are normally very, very security minded. That's why they go there, because it's a kind of job for life, and you can't get sacked no matter how bad you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's a
And so-
political comment. We won't go too far down that track.
I know. You might want to edit that one out.
Yeah, my son's mayor up in North Queensland at the moment is under a bit of a review by the state government and by the police. So some of them can actually be the elected officials as well that are the problem.
Oh, indeed, absolutely. So anyway, so we actually I ran a 3-day workshop, and in the end, we had people totally changed from being scared, introverted, withdrawn, secretly looking for work elsewhere, networking with their colleagues in other areas, really looking at, escape routes.
Yep.
They actually said, you know what? We get it. Our mission is to be the very best version of ourselves, no matter what happens, because that is the best guarantee of you getting placed somewhere else or staying, regardless. And it won't be because of you that you're going. It will be because you simply are surplus, and therefore it's reasonable that you go. However, by being the best version of yourself, you're underwriting your employability and your value somewhere else. And that's just a matter of of doing the right things to find the new place. And guess what? We will help you.
You have to
That's
have
what,
that respect, though, the respect for the staff to do that.
oh, you
And
do. And that's a leadership issue. That's a leadership issue. And if the leadership doesn't respect it and just, you're just a number and we can replace you, or we don't really care, it's not our duty to care for you, that's where they're mistaken. That duty of care is there.
what I've found in the past, and this really riles me up, is that the organization that's been purchased or taken over, the buying organization always refers to them as their original name or as the former, whatever their name was, doesn't
Yeah.
integrate the business into the business as a whole. They're always got that stigma of being, oh, they were such and such, or the old, the former, whatever it is. Got to bring the people along on the journey with you and integrate them as soon as possible so that they feel part of the business.
Yeah, and look, the specific skill, and this is I'm going to bang on about this a bit because it's absolutely crucial for all of us. The particular skill that needs to be given to both the buyer and the seller beforehand is the skill of attitudinal competence. And that means that no matter what's happening, no matter what's happening, no matter what has happened, and no matter what might happen, you are able to adopt your very best attitude for that situation and not be stuck with habitual attitudes of fear that are fear-based. And that skill is a crucial component and is the one that I deliver every time I do this preparation work, preparation for sale, preparation for acquisition, preparation for change.
Do
It's a
people
key
actually
component.
prepare, though? Do they
No,
prepare
they
for a
don't.
sale? Do they prepare for an acquisition?
No, they
Or
don't.
is
No,
it just a thought bubble by the CEOs, or, oh, we should go and buy something, or we need to go and acquire something, and then
yeah,
they
we
force
need to
that through?
sell or we need to buy, and that's it. And it's happening at a thought bubble level, at a senior level. The planning is insufficient. They don't know, they don't check out the culture of their own culture and knowing what are the differences between this culture and that culture. Are we really a good fit? What are the risks? And what are the opportunities? A proper
They, but they do that in the
analysis.
due diligence. They do the risks and the opportunities in the due diligence. But what they don't do is that fitness test that you're talking about.
Well, that's a risk. That's a
That's a
risk,
risk.
and therefore they're not doing it. They're mainly doing it around knowns and spreadsheet data. The
Yes.
due diligence is around spreadsheet data. It's not around the attitudes of the people. It's not about their relationship with the customer base. It's not about their readiness for change. It's just a financial bloody focus.
So we're missing several pages out of our playbook then, if they've even got a playbook in the first place.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was working last year with a company that was aggressively acquiring. It was in the financial planning area, and they were aggressively buying all these financial wealth advisors. They didn't have a playbook. I created a playbook for them, very specifically for them, and and then they ended up not using it anyway. Just kept bumbling along. Too busy doing the term sheets. Too busy worrying about the deal itself. Not the aftermath. And in
Humans,
fact, in a number of because they were doing a constant buying, their buying program and their final acquisition stage never got reached because they were buying and then losing the value, then buy another and then lose the value, buy another, then
yeah.
lose the value. And it was
If you're
kind of there's this
constantly
huge bucket.
learning and not
Oh,
writing
oh,
down and working through your learnings, then of
no.
course that's going to happen. You need to actually
Yeah.
if you're going to repeat the issues over history
Well,
that you've already done.
well, absolutely. And part of the problem in that case was that they had started as a small family business. And I kept saying, you are going to be changing from being a small family business. You're going corporate. You need to think like that. Keep the good stuff about the family values, which is a value thing, and the way we look after our people. But you can't play favourites. You've got to treat everyone the same way.
A gentleman called JT Fox, he does a program where he talks about anybody can grow to $100,000. That's just effort. Is zero thousand, sorry, 100,000 to a million. That requires some processes and a, your staff's effort to do that.
People, yeah, can't do it on your own.
Then when you go from 1 million to 10 million, that requires complete process and procedures to do that are being implemented by your people at that stage. And so the essence of it is you can only grow to a certain stage with your own mentality. But at some stage, you're going to exceed your mentality, your capabilities, your knowledge, and you need to bring in someone else to take you to that next level.
Yeah, and smart people hire people who are smarter than them. And that's the key, and that requires ego management, a little bit of
Oh,
humility.
that is a big thing, isn't it? Try and put that, talk to the deal makers team on that one, because the deal makers team is quite often very ego driven, but they've achieved a
Oh
goal, they've
yeah,
got the signature, and that's it.
oh yeah, they're hunters. They're in hunting mode, and so they automatically become more aggressive and very focused.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of wisdom there. There's a lot of aggression, a lot of testosterone.
I'm going to have to edit
But
some of this out of this podcast. We can't have this going out into the world. People are going to get all the wrong ideas, aren't they?
why not?
You try to bring some common sense and some down to earthness to the executives,
I
the C
am.
suite, are
I
you?
am. I am. Yeah, I am. Look, I've seen too much of the this aggressive acquisition, growth by acquisition,
Mm.
and it's unfortunately most of it fails, and the numbers, the data speaks for itself. But why are they learning is the key. Why are they not learning? And
Well,
I
I wrote a
guess
course on
say
mergers and
again.
acquisition introduction, and it was for the C suite and the deal team. And everyone I have spoken to, and of course, on these courses, you get to see the stats of who's done it, how far they've got through it, which modules they've done, and you get to see who's doing what in these online courses.
Yeah.
They don't finish it, they don't
Yeah.
get through it. Again,
Yeah.
ego. They think that they know everything already.
Yeah. And
And
all that matters is the term sheets. Get that right, and the deal's done, and that's our bit. Somebody else can worry about HR, can worry about the integration.
but these
Excuse me,
people,
you got to worry about it.
most people in business do two, three M&As. An M&A person like ourselves will see, say, 10, 15 M&As in our career.
Yep. Yep.
But if you're dealing with a group of people, such as the people on this podcast, as an example, and you combine those, you're now talking hundreds of M&As. That experience, people need to be able to, the C-suite need to be able to learn from that experience and learn the mistakes of their predecessors and
Well,
their
the
people.
interesting, no, I totally agree with you, mate. Totally agree. And one of the sad other statistics, it's a sad statistic, is that the C-suite are the last people doing more learning.
Exactly. That's the problem, isn't
They've
it?
stopped. They feel that they've reached C-suite, and now we don't need to learn anymore. We know it all. That's one of the biggest mistakes, and we see it in not only in commerce, we see it in the public sector. I mean,
Mhm.
the fire brigade and the police are my some of my big clients because of their dynamic issues. Um, the the directors general of various government departments have stopped learning, and they've basically become political animals. And
Yes,
it's
that's
really
right.
about an easy ride into the sunset. And they delegate a lot, but they don't delegate effectively. And so that that happens at all in all structures. It's a human thing. It's not just limited to public sector or private sector.
It's not, no.
It's humans. It's humans. And we've got to understand that we are in a time when we all need to be constantly learning. And I know you are, and I know I am. I put in at least 25% of my time is spent learning.
I have to agree. I think that would be a pretty reasonable number. But there's different ways of learning as well. Learning from
Of
someone
course.
like yourself, learning
Yeah.
by podcast, learning via online training programs, reading books, and I see you've got a few there yourself. So
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways. YouTube, as it even has some stuff, or LinkedIn Learning. There's lots of ways to do learning these days.
So many ways to learn, and I think people need to reflect on and ask themselves this question: what is the best way for me to learn? What works for me? And then
Yes.
follow that path. I mean, I know that I like learning through, first of all, reading and then watching, but doing. And so, as a practitioner, I'm learning more by the interactions with my clients than anywhere else.
But there's also that speed of implementation as well. You've got to take that learning and then implement it. And for example, not 2.5 hours ago, I was chatting with another gentleman, getting ready for an upcoming podcast,
Yeah,
and he said to me, he said, "Oh, you should be doing this." Yes, I should. So I wrote it down on my notes there. Since that was 2.5 hours ago, we spoke for nearly an hour. So in the last hour and a half, I've gone and implemented that, and it's done.
wonderful,
So
wonderful.
you can't just take the learnings. Right now, I'm doing a wealth workout program as well every day during January with
Good
someone,
on you.
learning different techniques, and it's half an hour a day. But everybody should be doing that learning, and the C-suite are absolutely included in that. They've got to be
They've
learning
stopped.
everything vertical within their business.
Yeah, they actually, and they've got to go. They've got to see that theory or having knowledge is useless unless you apply it. So, and I think it was Bruce Lee, wasn't it, who said, "Knowing is not enough; you must do." You know.
I No, I don't know the answer to that one. It might have been, I just don't know.
Yeah, it
But
was. Yeah, I was just yeah saying it was Bruce Lee. Knowing is not
okay.
enough; you must do.
So it wasn't Yoda.
Sorry?
It wasn't Yoda, the little green man with the big ears and the little
N
and the stick.
no, no. I think he might have adopted it from Bruce. He was post Bruce.
Right. So
But yeah, that's the key. The key is that they've got to appreciate that they don't know everything, and things are changing rapidly, and learning is a never-ending journey.
okay, are they really equipped to do the integration? Because you've hinted that you need a team from the buyer's end and the seller's end, and there's that gap in between. So are you
Ah,
implying
you know,
that there's got to be a team involved there?
I totally agree with you, mate. Totally agree with you, and I'm advocating. In fact, I provide alone at this point, but it's time to get a gang together and provide that independent merger integration team and allow the people who are in the business to carry on with the business. And because that's one of the other features of the merger integration and the acquisition process is that the business stalls because people's attention have been diverted to the acquisition.
And most often businesses run pretty lean these days. They don't have a lot of spare time up their sleeves, do they?
Well, that's another issue, a really important one, and that's about are you right sized? And there's a very quick test. You
Oh,
go to the leadership, go to the leaders and say, how much time have you got to coach your team to be great? And they'll turn around and say, if they turn around, and most of them do, turn around and say, well, I'd love to, but I haven't got the time. I said, why haven't you got the time? Because I'm doing work that I can't delegate because the team's already full up. Right. So you're not right sized, are you? And they go, oh, well, no, I guess we're not. And then you go to the CFO, and the CFO says, "Well, we still got to trim the payroll." You know,
you can trim the
and there's the
payroll, but
problem.
you've got to cut the productivity and cut
Yeah, they
the
don't get
income
that.
stream. And
Yeah,
there's when people are in a hurry, they do something to get it across the line. They do just enough rather than
yeah,
doing it right. So then they have to go back when it fails and causes grief. They have to go back and do it right. So now they've done it three
yeah,
times. It's cost them three
yeah,
times the amount of time it would have taken to do it once.
yeah. Look, I mean, there's that's an absolute truth. And the other one that I'm finding really confounding and frustrating, even with CFOs, some of them don't know the difference between a cost and an investment. And the big one is payroll. They treat payroll as a cost. It's a bloody investment. It, in fact,
Yes.
is probably your biggest investment,
Yeah.
your most important investment. And it's not treated that way. It's treated like an overhead.
Well, to support that, I did a job where we were taking on five different sites and merging it into a larger business. We needed to put in, and this is just one little segment of that merger side of things, needed to put in seven timekeeping devices into those five sites. Configuration of those devices shut down the service desk for 10,000 people because they didn't have the staff, the time to configure these devices. They needed the devices configured and they had to shut down the service desk for a day and a half just to get these devices configured and out the door for transport, for implementation. That to
And they
me
didn't work out
showed
another way
that
of doing it.
they weren't right sized at all. They
No,
don't have the BAU staff are generally running at 100% these days in most organizations.
sorry about that. I just
Yep.
killed that. Sorry.
Yeah, the business as
You
usual
go
stuff
ahead.
are running at 100%. You throw in a project and they're now running at 120, 130%. They've got to do this for 3 to 6 months. So now you're losing not only your your acquisition site staff, but you're losing your internal staff as well because they're burnt out.
Absolutely. And all of these things point to the smart use of a independent external integration team, which will actually should come in at the very beginning and actually even can actually influence. And you know what?
When
And
is
have
that
the
beginning?
courage to say you shouldn't be doing this sale. You shouldn't be doing this purchase.
Yeah. So when is the
Get
beginning?
the money. Say again.
When is the beginning? You said they should come in at the beginning. When is the beginning?
When the acquisition party decides that they need to do an acquisition,
Wow. Yep. I have to agree.
like super early, and I mean, it's like, look, in a military context or law enforcement context, and I've experienced both. We never did anything without doing a proper, thorough recce and making sure we had the right resources ready from the get-go. And we did rehearsals and we built models and lifelike models and practiced our timing and practiced our, the actual movements physically and mentally before we
Practiced.
actually did it.
You've got to practice this stuff too. I once
Correct.
asked someone to give me a dump. I was doing a demerger, asked them to do a dump of the email for this site.
Yeah.
Now, my expectation was that they knew set them this task 4 weeks early. They've got to have this at 9:40 a.m. precisely. It's got to be in my hands at 9:40 a.m. They didn't practice. They did it on the day. They got in at 8 o'clock and they started the export of that email system. Didn't finish for 9 hours. And
Wow.
I
Wow.
said to him, look, I said, I could have done that entire 9 hour job in 5 seconds. Impossible, impossible. So I just went, do, and I scheduled the task to run at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
There you
said,
go.
here you go, run it at 1 a.m. And I said it would have been in my hand by 9:40.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
practice, practice, practice. So
It
yes,
is. It is that. And look, one of the other pressures to be fair to both the buyer and the seller, one of the other pressures that is often unrealistic are the pressures from the funding party. These are the venture capitalists and the hedge funders and the finance guys, the external third-party finance people, have expectations that are unrealistic, and they place demands on both the buyer and the seller that actually force them to do things that aren't going to work. And so I'm looking at one of those right now, and we're actually going to be um, having a meeting with the funders
we're
to
grown
make them
ups.
realize that they're risking their money by making
Yes,
these demands.
that's right. We're grown ups. We have to identify that, then go back and work with the stakeholders, make them
Yeah.
understand, or you just have to walk away. If you can't make
Yeah.
it work, walk away.
I wouldn't be surprised, and look, I don't have enough data to make this number correct, but I'd say that around 20%, and I'm using Pareto's principle here, but around 20% of deals should never happen,
Hmm.
and they do, and they're going to be doomed from day one.
Well, David, I don't think that there is anybody in the acquisition and merger space and life cycle here that we haven't slagged off at today. I think we've given everybody in the life cycle a bit of a mouthful today. So,
Yep.
all I have to say is that nobody in particular is to be offended by this podcast. We've been equal in our slandering of everyone today.
Yeah, look, however, what we haven't done, we haven't spoken about why the ones that do work, why they work. And it's basically the opposite of everything that we've been saying.
Preparation, communication, choosing the right deal, choosing the right partners,
Planning early
plan planning early at the start. Start planning at the start.
and practice before you do.
Yes.
Is that merger team or is that due diligence team looking at everything they need to look at? Or are they just
And get
spending too
yourself a
much money
merger,
under?
get yourself an
Yeah,
integration team as well,
yeah.
because the
And
money
make it
that you spend on the
independent.
integration team will be
Make
recouped
it
very quickly.
independent. Yeah, make it independent because that way both parties will feel better.
Hmm. Look, that's what NDAs are for. But
Yeah,
if it's independent, just get an NDA on
absolutely.
them and they're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Totally.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's look, there is that. And so the team there needs to be a decent, well resourced independent merger service, right? And instead of lone wolves like you and me,
Well,
that's
what I'm
because we ourselves. I mean, I can't do everything, that's for sure.
no, you can't.
And so that's so I think people should be watching this space because I've got a sneaky feeling that you, me, and others who are yet to be identified will be providing the service
Well, I'm going
as
to
a
put
team.
down some details further down below, and I think we'll do it on two parts. One is someone that's looking for your services, and the other one is who wants to team up and put together a team to make this happen. And just as a bit of a sideline, this morning I have been working on laying out a plan for such a team by coincidence. It takes 22 people for this team to actually fully do the entire team. It's 22 people. So, but that's
Yeah,
a topic for another day, I think.
I think that that's where we should be putting some energy,
Yes.
without a doubt. I
And
mean, I've had similar thoughts. Actually, a lot of it stimulated by our original conversation, admittedly. Um, and I've been thinking about it over this break. And I'm interested in that you came up with 22 because I had 25.
well, that's not too far off.
And I
Maybe
and
it was
I
because
no,
I had
so
two
we were
half
thinking.
people. I had
Well,
some
yeah, and,
fractional
and maybe
service.
I was overthinking certain aspects, but
Hmm.
it again, it's a learning journey. But the thing that's really important is that I have been involved with a with oh, 11, 11 mergers and acquisitions, and most of them have worked out except for two because they didn't listen. And
Yes.
they've lost the value. You know, they've lost the value, and that if they don't listen, then that you can lead a horse to water, but it will choose whether it drinks or not.
It's true, yes. Well, David, we're going to wind it up there for today, but I think that there's at least a couple more discussions that we should be having and uh, going over our numbers between that 22 and 25. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Look, there's a lot of potential. There's a need for it, and the people that need to know it, as much as the prospective buyers and sellers are the funding parties, the
Well,
merchant banks, the VC operators and the like. They need to know that they've got to watch it. They're losing their money. Are they going to be
true.
professional winners or professional losers?
We're cutting it right there. I don't think that we could sum that up any other way. So time out on that one, David. Thank you so much, David,
My
for your
pleasure,
time.
Craig. My absolute pleasure. Cheers,
Perfect.
mate.
That's going to be the cut.